I'm 74 years old now, and my husband Robert passed away last month after 52 years together. There was one thing I never told him straight out, though we shared a bed and meals every day. And it's gnawing at me in this too quiet house where his chair still sits empty by the kitchen table. The funeral was small, just our son Mark and a handful of old neighbors who brought pies but stayed only minutes, murmuring condolences before slipping away. No one asked for details, and I didn't offer any because the words were stuck deep inside, the same ones I'd held back for decades. I've replayed our life 1,000 times since, wondering how it all built up so silently without us noticing. Maybe speaking it here will loosen the knot a bit, or at least leave it for someone younger to hear before their own regrets pile on. Time feels shorter every morning I wake alone. We met back when I was 22, working long shifts at the local telephone exchange. My fingers sore from plugging and unplugging those endless cords as voices from strangers filled the room, but never touched my own heart. Robert showed up one rainy afternoon to repair a faulty line outside, tall with rough hands and a quiet nod that said more than chatter ever could. He was a lineman for the utility company, always out in the weather. We started seeing each other after that. Simple dates, like walks after supper or coffee at the diner, and married within a year at the small church on Elm Street with just family watching. I wore my mother's old dress, altered at the waist because I'd gained a little from nerves, and we promised to stick through thick and thin without fanfare. Our first place was a tiny apartment above a bakery, smelling of fresh bread every dawn, and life felt steady, like we'd figured it out early. Our boy Mark came along 9 months later, crying, filling those rooms, but we managed without complaint. Those early married years were a grind of work and baby care that left little room for anything but the basics. Getting through each day without much looking back or ahead, I'd rush home from the exchange, feet aching in my sensible shoes, to find Robert already there changing Mark's diapers or warming bottles on the old stove we bought secondhand. Suppers were quick canned soup or potatoes fried up with whatever meat was cheap that week, eaten while listening to the radio news about the world far away that didn't touch us yet. Weekends, if the weather cooperated, we'd pack a thermos and drive to the lake an hour out, spreading a blanket for sandwiches and watching Mark toddle in the shallow water while Robert skipped stones. Conversations stayed light. Job gripes, neighbor gossip, plans for a bigger yard someday. Deeper stuff like fears or joys waited unspoken. I thought that's how it was supposed to be. Couples building silently side by side, assuming the other knew without needing words spelled out. By my 30s, work pulled me harder with the phone, boom after the war. More lines needed everywhere, and I grabbed overtime to save for Mark's future clothes or school supplies we couldn't afford otherwise. Robert was out on poles daily, fighting storms to keep power on for the town, coming home with mud-caked boots and shoulders slumped from climbing. Evenings shortened as exhaustion hit. I'd wash up dishes while he flipped through the paper, occasionally reading bits aloud about baseball scores or local fairs. Mark started school then, bringing home drawings and questions that filled our talks more than anything between us, like why Dad's hands were always scratched or if Mom could quit work someday. I'd catch Robert's eye across the table sometimes, feel a pull to say how grateful I was for his steadiness holding us afloat. But the clock ticked toward bed and fatigued one out. Tomorrow seemed fine for those moments, with years stretching endless before us like the dirt road to the lake. The 40s brought changes we adapted to without fuss. Mark turning teen with friends and football practice that kept him out till dark, leaving Robert and me to rattle around the house we'd finally bought. I got promoted to supervisor at the exchange, overseeing a team of girls on the boards, which meant longer training sessions and handling irate customers who yelled about busy signals. Robert's back started bothering him from latter years, so he took easier jobs, wiring houses in town, hands still busy, but body protesting more each dawn. We celebrated little anew, Frigidaire fridge, family barbecue for Mark's high school graduation where Robert grilled burgers quietly proud. Holidays with just us three felt complete, turkey carved precise, and pie from scratch. But after Mark left for college, suppers quieted further. I'd think then to Bridget, mention how his support made my job bearable. Yet dishes or mending clothes intervened every time. 50s crept in with health nudges we ignored at first. Robert's hearing fading, so TV volume rose, and I'd repeat myself sharper than intended, sparking short spats over nothing. Mark married a nice girl from his college, gave us 2 granddaughters who lit up visits with sticky hugs and laughter bouncing off walls we'd painted fresh. Robert softened around them, telling tall tales of storm fixes while bouncing them despite back twinges, and I'd watch feeling that old warmth swell. One Christmas Eve after they drove off through snow, wrapping paper strewn everywhere, I opened my mouth as we cleared Robert, "You've been ... But the phone rang with thanks from our daughter-in-law moment, dissolving into yawns. Routine reclaimed us. My sewing circle Tuesdays, his garage tinkering with neighbor radios, suppers of leftovers with news on low. I assumed he felt the contentment I did, words redundant after so long together. 60s hit harder, Robert retiring fully, with a small company watch we still keep on the mantle, ticking steady. While I cut back shifts, but volunteered shelving books at the library to fill empty hours. His steps slowed, knees creaking on stairs, and arguments fizzled quicker into silence. We both retreated to Mark's family visits thinned 2 summers, grandkids growing fast with their own lives, phone calls replacing hugs more often. We'd sit evenings with tea, watching sunset over the yard, and I'd rehearse inside my head the thanks for decades of quiet partnership. But TV shows or mail-pulled attention, chances slipping like sand. Church on Sundays offered routine potlucks, where folks shared ailments, reminding how time wore everyone down slow. The last decade brought frailty we couldn't dodge. Robert forgetting small things like keys or names, doctor diagnosing early dementia after tests we dreaded. I managed meds, bills, meals, softer now for his chewing. Nights broken by his confused wakings-eyed, calm with pats and water. Son Mark helped weekends, bringing groceries and stories from his job. Granddaughters drawing pictures Robert pinned up smiling vague. One clear afternoon in the garden, he turned to me sudden. Good run we had, eyes sharp brief, hands squeezing mine firm. Throat closed. I nodded only, the words, "I love you." Sorry for silences bubbling but unspoken again. Nurses visited daily then, home aides for baths, our world shrinking to doctors' waits and pill sorters. Last year worsened fast. Robert falling in bathroom one night, sending us to hospital lights, harsh and voices clipped. Scans showing spread quicker than hoped. He came home frail in bed downstairs. We rearranged for oxygen humming soft beside him while I slept in rocker nearby. Mark flew in more, girls whispering goodnights through door, family orbiting tight but tense. I'd hold his hand daily, recount lake picnics or first apartment bread smells, his grip fading, responses to nods. Regret built then heavy, that one truth how deeply I cherished him. Sorry for unspoken days hovering on tongue, but fear of confusion held it back. Days bled into routine care, hospice papers signed quiet. His final months dragged, tender yet torturous. Robert drifting in out awareness, favorite blanket tucked tight, radio tuned low to ball games he once followed. I'd brew coffee mornings anyway, sip alone planning day around his needs, wiping brows, changing sheets without tire. One Tuesday dawn last month, I carried Trey in, found him still, chest unmoving, peaceful in sleep we all dread. Called Mark first, then sat numb as ambulance came lights, flashing silent. House emptied sudden, his things untouched, like pausing breath. Funeral plot at cemetery overlooked town we raised family in. Stone simple with dates side by side waiting mine, service short under gray sky. Neighbors shoveled walks after, son hugged long promising check-ins, granddaughters placed flowers wilting quick. Back home, silence amplified every creak clock tick. His razor still by sink shirts folded drawer. Nights long as bed vast cold, memories flooding unbidden of hands held driving or suppers shared laughing rare. Regret crystallized full now, that unsaid core. I love you more than life, Robert. Sorry I showed it so poor through busy days and tired silences, assuming you knew heart deep. Wasn't fights or betrayals, but daily drifts over time over talks, fatigue over touches, pride over plain words. Small choices snowballed quiet, eroding what could been voiced bridges. Thought, actions, sufficed meals, cooked, home kept, support given, but hearts need hearing plain sometimes. Can't mend it now? Gray visits bench sitting, whispering late winds carry off unheard. Letters unwritten, burning unsent. Time reclaimed impossible, whole permanent where his voice filled mornings. Photos albumed, show smiles frozen. Grandkids ask grandpa stories, I tell halting own words lacking. If young ears hear this, ponder close ones, now not forever husband. By sync, parent phone, friend afar. Don't bank tomorrow endless. Speak truths small daily before piles bury them. Say appreciation plain, hold longer. Choose presence over task lists, knowing routines, steal slow. My mornings dawn slower joints, stiff heart watched close doctor notes, sorting old letters, photos for grandkids someday. Robert's chair empty reminder, coffee single cup ritual altered forever. Story mine plain, truth lived hard may it echo before your tomorrow's turn yesterday's too. Acceptance settles uneasy. Gratitude, sorrow mixed for years, had despite lacks, time left savored small like porch, sits sun-warmed. If meant something, share thought gentle, or carry own words forward today. That's all from this 74-year-old house quiet, one chair short.